Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for what is going to be a special video with two special guests. Today we have two of the team members from Flickto, which is a Cardano-powered decentralized media incubator. We have Pratik Doshi, who is the head of marketing, and we have Rob Knight, the co-founder of Flickto. So first of all, guys, thank you very much for coming on the channel. It's a pleasure to have you both here.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having
Fantastic.
us.
Yeah, thank you. Can't wait. Excited to get this done.
Fantastic, fantastic. So what I'm going to do to start, guys, is ask you both to tell me a little bit about yourselves and kind of how you got on the path that you're on. So if we start with you, Rob, that'd be great.
Yeah, so wow. I mean, before founding Flickto, I was CTO of a global public software company that dealt with Linux and open source software. I've been working in open source since I was about 14, actually, and kind of volunteering from a young age. So I've always been in that kind of community, right, where people seek transparency, seek that kind of free flow of information, and embody a lot of the ideals that kind of spawned the crypto movement that we see today. I think my first venture into crypto must have been late 2016. I think I lost a lot of money at the time. It was during the ICO boom, right? And it was very much a wild west. I guess things today are still a bit like a wild west, but back then, wow, it was kind of crazy. Kind of spent a few months in there and then kind of backed out for a couple of years. And then it was like tail end of 2018, early 2019, started getting back into things again. And then it was obviously in late 2020, early 2021. That's when I discovered Cardano, and was kind of initially in there as a retail investor, and then the kind of opportunity of Flickto presented itself in 2021, and I guess now all in on Cardano, all in on Flickto, and
All in
now here we
crypto.
are today. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I think quite a few people have quite a similar story to that, and I've watched previous interviews of with yourself on there, and you'd kind of mentioned that you were a retail investor initially, and I think people really fall in love with the crypto space like yourself and really sort of see the benefits of it and the use cases for it, which is exactly what you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think quite quickly it becomes a big use of time, right? Staring at those graphs.
Yep, everything else goes out the window and crypto becomes the main focus. Absolutely, absolutely. And Pratik, a little bit about yourself as head of marketing.
So prior to Flickto, my academic background is obviously within marketing. I've co-founded a few community interest companies where we create educational programs, and I develop and deliver them, and also have had like a digital marketing agency where we've worked with like SaaS companies, non-profits, and SMEs. In terms of cryptocurrency, I was a retail investor just before the end of 2017. Same thing, I kind of got out of it. And then slowly in 2020, tipping my toes back into the whole industry. Heard about Cardano in early 2021, loved it. It was great. And then Flickto presented itself as an opportunity. And now, as Rob said, all in Cardano, and the rest is history.
And here we are. So you're in the right place then as head of marketing, definitely. So it's a super interesting product that you guys have got. I mean, just the name of it, a Cardano-powered media incubator. I mean, that's fascinating. So if now we've heard a little bit about yourselves, if we maybe move into what Flickto is, just what the project is generally, and then we'll kind of go into what it's used for and a number of other things as we sort of progress. So I don't know which one of you wants to tackle what Flickto is, but I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, no, I'll start with that. When we think about incubator, I think that's kind of the key word in there that often gets people's attention. We are often compared with launchpads, right, or IDO launchpads, fundraising for media projects. When we say media projects, perhaps this is a film, short film, maybe a documentary, but also TV series or mini series. We've also got some anime stuff in there as well. We don't really limit ourselves as a project with what we class as media. We just are ask for those submissions from the community. And what we aim to do is host these various media projects that are submitted through our public community submissions tool, and then let the community vote on what projects interest them the most. So by opening that up and kind of democratizing that process, we're allowing the people who ultimately consume content to have an influence on what content actually ends up being funded. Then once a project is successful in a voting round, we finance that project. And this is where we kind of different from a traditional crypto launchpad. This is where the incubation really comes in, because a lot of these content creators is maybe their first professional project that they're doing, or perhaps, you know, it's something they need a bit more of upskilling in certain areas. So we can incubate them just like you would have a business incubator or a tech incubator for startup companies, to take them where they need to be, to give them the skills they need, provide them with the production support, perhaps a sales or distribution support as well, so that we can help their project be a success as much as possible. So that's the key foundation, is funding projects using funds that we have raised as a project. And then in addition to that, users who voted on projects or participated in that voting round are entitled to a share of the distribution royalties as well. Obviously, you know, media industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry, you would kind of want to take those profits and put them back in the hands of the content creator, but also the community members, the investors in the Flickto platform as well.
Absolutely. So you're kind of allowing individuals to become sort of media moguls, if you will. You know, you're allowing everybody to potentially have a say, and not only that, invest in up and coming media projects. So I love that about you guys. I also think it's great how with many launch pads, it really stops at the point of funding. So with you guys, not only does it, you continue further on than that. So you'll actually help a product grow, help a project grow, I should say. And you guys also, as a company, have the skills to help certain media developers or certain media projects, you know, progress. So I think that's brilliant. It's very different from a normal incubator is the right word, I think, instead of launchpad. And it's fascinating what you guys are doing. And the fact that this is powered by Cardano, I mean, it's another perfect example of how blockchain is really grasping the world and really, you know, innovating and decentralizing not just the finance space. And you guys have sort of coined the term DeMe. So we have DeFi for decentralized finance. You guys have coined the term for decentralized media. First to do it that I know of, you know, and it's certainly interesting. So Pratik, anything from you on that? Anything you want to add about Flickto?
In terms of the incubator, I'd say think about us like a Y Combinator, but for media. And in terms of DeMe as well, like I said, it was a term that we've coined, and just to go into it a little bit, it's based on the decentralization of media. We want to decentralize the industry, and what that fundamentally means is to distribute the decision-making power from a centralized authority or the oligopoly that exists within Hollywood now, move that decision-making power back to the consumers, the creators, and the communities who interact with media. Media is an influential industry. It doesn't consult with its consumers to develop fresher and more entertaining content. Now, the industry landscape has traditionally been centralized now, and this is a result of immense budgets that are needed for feature films. So this has caused a power structure to develop, where you really need to be in an upper echelon to get the know-how, the contacts to push you right over the edge and for you to actually thrive within this space. So like over the decade, we've seen the influence of media on our daily lives, right? Through referendums, pandemics, and elections as well. So this has created a real desire within the media industry for a change, right, to happen. And this also goes on to the entertainment side of things. There's so many films that are being remastered that the core fans are disgruntled with. They're really not happy. And I feel like having a decentralized platform like ours would provide an opportunity for these core fans and these new creators to really interact so they can remaster a film that everyone's happy with. Hence why we've called our ISPO Remastered, because we are trying to remaster the whole media industry as a whole, bring Web 3.0 into it and innovate it for the better.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, it's certainly very interesting what you guys have got going on, and you're all, again, the whole decentralized concept of things, you guys are really at the forefront of it in your industry, and I think that's brilliant. And I love the fact that it's on Cardano. So let's maybe just run through sort of how it works. So that's what you guys essentially are doing. Let's run through what that sort of process looks like. So either one of you welcome to tackle that question.
Yeah, kind of. I'll start. I think it's one that's kind of shared between both of us. You know, the first part of the journey is the project submission. So we have an initial submissions form that content creators can go and fill out. And perhaps, you know, content creators, I mean, in the broadest possible sense there. I'm not talking, you know, YouTubers or etc. Anyone with an idea. Perhaps they've got a script. Maybe they've even got some artwork relating to a project that they're working on or associated with. Collect some basic details from them, submit them through to ourselves. We have a panel of various people from across the media industry, and they are there as an advisory panel because we don't say no to projects. If a project isn't a spammy project, someone just wasting our time by putting loads of junk into the submissions form, they provide their insight and their opinion on that project. And this is so we can categorize the projects, because some projects, they're great ideas, but perhaps they're asking for too much that we're able to offer at this kind of early stage as we're launching. Or perhaps they need a bit of mentoring just to kind of refine the bits that are kind of missing from their overall story. So those advisors give that feedback to the creators, but ones that are eligible to list straight away, there's criteria for that, which I'm sure Pratik will talk about in a second. We then list them on our platform, and we have various voting rounds. We're grouping the projects by genre, by type, because obviously it doesn't make sense to put like a Bollywood project in the same category as a sci-fi project, because it's, you know, local differences. Once they're grouped, categorized and listed, the users will then indicate a preference towards the projects that they like, and they do this by holding Flick. So they can create an account on the platform and then associate that with their Cardano wallet. And then what we do, we don't require them to send us Flick or to lock their Flick token in any way. We look and see how much Flick they've got and then assign them an amount of voting credits based on how much Flick they've got. It's not a kind of a linear, in the sense of someone with 1 million Flick doesn't have 1 million times more the voting power than someone of 1 Flick. We're trying to kind of balance those scales a little bit. And they then vote. They indicate that degree of preference. It's not like a first past the post thing. People are able to indicate for multiple projects until they've used up all of their different voting credits. And then after that's all done and everyone in that round is voted, we've got a cut-off date for each round, and the results are then published onto the blockchain, and we then start the process of funding that specific project. There's all sorts of kind of criteria that go into that. We know we've got different types of funding models, things like conditional grants, for example, where projects have to deliver on certain milestones before we unlock the next set of funds. As part of that, the projects are in communication with the community, right, that voted on them. The platform also acts as that kind of collaboration space as well, to bring the content creators closer to the community that's interested in their project. We can get them on lives, get them on spaces, all of that kind of fun stuff as well. Some projects will be launching NFTs, relating to those projects, like the collectible memorabilia of the past, but in NFT forms. Some of those are just going to be airdrop for free to holders of Flick or those that participated in the round. But some of them also be NFT sales. Perhaps if a project needs a specific amount for a specific activity, they can try and generate that through NFT sales as well. But in terms of that project submission and vetting process and the stages, I'll hand over to Pratik to talk about that a bit more.
Yeah, in regards to the stages, we've split up the applications into 3 different stages. The first stage are the ones that essentially go through to either go through a further vetting process for us to assess what extra resources they'll need. This is why we're an incubator, because our support doesn't stop at the funding. We will support and nurture the people behind the project as well, in terms of professional development, personal development too, to some extent that's relevant to the project. Share our network with them, share some educational knowledge that will actually help them step up, not just for this project, but generally within their career in media for afterwards. Now, the next 2 stages are for the applicants who we feel have areas of development. We don't particularly say no to anyone. We just say, oh, this is a great idea, and these are the resources and the different educational bits that we feel you need to brush up on to improve your idea. And this is where the School of Flick comes in. We're going to be creating tailored content around these applicants and their needs to essentially feed that information to them so they can improve their application and just their general their general ability to upskill themselves within media. The third stage actually falls into this category as well, where we'll be providing this nurture and support to these projects to make sure that they actually get to the stage of readiness when it comes to funding films.
So there's quite a lot to unpack there. Can anybody apply? So could I, for example, create a amateur media product and apply through your process and then go through that?
Yep, absolutely. Anyone can apply. It's completely open to the public. The forms, they're available on our website, flickto.io. Submit a project is at the top right of the page, and then every few weeks we then run, those through our kind of vetting process, and we've had submissions from all different types of people from all across the globe. We can work with, I like to say anyone. However, we're a UK registered company. We can't potentially work with people in certain countries, due to the trade restrictions and all of that kind of thing. But those are more the exception than the norm. But we have no restrictions on that. The only area that we're not focusing on at the moment is music, because there's already a lot of projects out there and a few different, even on Cardano projects like Noom, for example, that are kind of exploring that space. So we'll let those focus on those. But anything aside from music, we've had people submit NFT project ideas. We've had people submit theatre production ideas, which is really quite interesting. We hadn't thought of that before. News station type ideas as well. We've had people submit, which is really interesting, especially given what's happening out there in the world at the moment. So yeah, it's open to anyone, anyone with an idea, and especially if you've already got a script or storyboard or whatever's relevant for your project. Absolutely send it through, and then the team will be in touch.
Fantastic. I mean, I wonder how many great creators out there, due to lack of funding, really slip through the cracks, and you guys are kind of bridging that, if you will, which I think is amazing. I really, again, another way that blockchain is changing the world, and you guys are really showing that. And ultimately, so it comes down to a kind of a voting process in regards to what projects go to the next sort of stage and receive the funding. And that's ultimately determined by the Flick holders, which is your native token that, of course, is on the Cardano blockchain. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely, that's correct.
So shall we maybe move on to Flick as a token, because that's certainly interesting. And then maybe, we'll talk about Flick as a token, maybe talk about things like the supply, how you guys are distributing it currently, how you can get your hands on it, and then we'll maybe move on to why you might want to be a Flick token holder. So I'll leave it to either one of you two to take that question.
Yeah, so I'll start there. So the Flick token, like you say, it's a Cardano native token. At the moment, we're only on top of Cardano, but we are open to multi-chain partnerships in the future to bring this model to more people as we grow and as we expand. The total supply of Flick is 5 billion. So 5 billion total supply. The current amount circulating is around 250 million at the moment. That's out there in the market. So not a lot in the grand scheme of things of 5 billion. And in terms of where people can get Flick today, there's a couple of routes. First one is to buy on one of the decentralized exchanges, where on both Sunday Swap and MinSwap, but also we have a strategic partnership with Muesli Swap as well. So it's definitely a preferred place where people can go and buy Flick today. Outside of the decentralized exchanges, though, the number one place where most people are getting their Flick from at the moment is our ISPO. We've got the Flickto ISPO Remastered, as we're calling it, similar to remastering movies. We're trying to remaster the media industry, and that's actually one of the most rewarding ISPOs on top of Cardano in terms of total token supply and the amount of tokens people get per epoch relating to the total supply. If someone were to stake one ADA with one of our Flick pools, they'll get 0.33 Flick for every ADA they've got staked. So it's quite significant. That kind of boils down to what we feel is at our heart, which is community. If you look at our tokenomics and kind of, go through our white paper, you'll see that 60% of the token is up for public distribution, either through ISPO or through the private sale and public sale rounds that have already happened. So through those public and private sales, that's where a good chunk of that 250 million circulating already comes from, and the rest comes from the liquidity that we've added to the various decentralized exchanges. But 52% of our total supply is distributed via ISPO. That ISPO launched on the 14th of Feb, Valentine's Day, and it runs for 32 epochs. So it's ending July 26th from the top of my head. And we'll then be distributing the tokens about 10 days after on August 5th/August 6th. So over that 48-hour period is when everyone gets their Flick tokens, which is awesome.
Fantastic. So it was a little Valentine's gift for somebody then, I guess, the ISPO. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And what is there anything you want to add to that, Prateek?
In terms of the utility of Flick, I think we've already touched upon it, but I can reiterate that the fact that the token holders will have the ability to vote on projects, and they'll also have the ability to earn passive income in the terms of royalties from their favorite films without having to risk their Flick. Apart from that point being reiterated on, Rob covered it as perfectly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, although I did miss one thing. Yeah, there's one thing I missed in there as well. It's not just voting on the platform that holders of Flick are able to do. We're launching. I was
going to say that's what we're actually going to cover next quickly. Is sort of why would you want to hold Flick? What would be the benefit? So if I was, if I had some money to play around with, what would be the law of being a Flick holder? So that was the next sort of thing we were going to move on to. So perfect. Either one of you feel free to maybe cover that.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we talked about, kind of the headline utility there is the voting on media projects. And as Prateek just mentioned, there's some passive income opportunities available there. For starters, just for participating in a round, we're going to be rewarding people with some additional Flick as an incentive to participating in voting. But obviously the main rewards then come once a project has been funded, distributed, and the royalties start coming back through us and then out to the Flick holders who were involved in that voting round in the form of ADA that's going to be sent directly to their wallets. But in addition to that, also we're launching Flick staking just around the time the ISPO is ending in early August. So people will be able to stake their Flick to earn more Flick. At least more Flick is what we're announcing at the start, but we do have some partnerships in the works that potentially could expand that to other tokens as well. Because we know not everyone perhaps is as interested on the media side as we are, so we want to make sure that appeals for them as well. But also the third kind of top feature of Flick token is holding it makes people eligible for some of the project NFT airdrops that I mentioned earlier on. So perhaps they never want to participate in the platform, but they want some of these NFTs. They want early access to these NFTs, or they want discount rates for these NFTs as well. And that's definitely one thing which resonates well with our community, because where we're bridging the real world with the crypto world through the media industry, we can be quite creative with the utility that we can offer for these NFTs. Things like, red carpet access to premieres, potentially even starring as an extra in some of these productions, which has really got our community quite excited, but also gives these NFTs potentially a decent value on the secondary market as well. So, there's lots of good potential passive income opportunities there for people who hold Flick, because we know, not everyone is in it for the media side.
There's definitely a lot of opportunities that you can sort of see forming with what you guys are doing, and it's so being a Flick token holder will essentially give you the rights to vote on a certain media project that you like the look of. If that media project then goes on and does well, you will benefit as somebody who partook in that vote from royalties later on down the line. So that's really the main. There's plenty of other avenues of utility, whether that be staking, early access to NFTs, a number of other things that you've mentioned. But the real utility for Flick token holders is to be able to vote on these projects, and then the successful ones will essentially be, not only will you gain rewards initially for partaking in the vote, but later on down the line, if these projects are successful, these media projects that otherwise perhaps wouldn't have even had a shot at success, you will be a beneficiary of that. Have I got that right?
That's absolutely right, yeah. And to kind of add a bit of additional detail, one of the questions we get asked a lot is, you know, as we said, that everyone who participated in that round gets a share of the distribution royalties. And what we're looking at the moment is 75% of the community royalties will go for those who actually voted for that specific project, but for 25% will be distributed amongst everyone that participated in that round. You know, so to give everyone that kind of opportunity. To sum it up in one, just like you say, you know, that one of the main reasons for holding Flick is it allows you to be a media producer, to be a media investor, which wouldn't normally be an option available to you know, the wide world as such.
It's a very closed off industry. As somebody that hasn't really dabbled in that side of things much, I know one thing I do know is it's very closed off. So it's, again, a way that, you know, crypto and Cardano specifically in this case is really revolutionizing another industry, which I think we're going to see a lot more of as things snowball. And you guys are in many ways pioneering the DeMe space, the decentralized media space, which is certainly very interesting, certainly a project that I'm interested in, and looking forward to seeing how you guys progress. So can we maybe talk a little bit about what's coming down the line? Have you guys got anything you're excited to share, or what's the next step for Flickto?
Yeah, I mean, so there's loads that's happened already in a way, right? You know, we've already got some launch media projects that are already in production, because we know, you know, we need to prove to the world that we can produce these projects, right? As you say, the media industry is quite closed off if you don't have, you know, access or a name. So by making the name for ourselves early, by doing these initial launch projects, we're both proving to the media world that we can do this while actually earning passive income for Flick holders straight away, because they'll be able to get that from those projects that will be distributing much sooner than the ones that initially go through the platform. I think the thing I'm most excited about is for the 31st of March. That's when our platform is going to go live. That's when people will be able to grab an account, start associating their wallet details, and start browsing through some of the projects that are going to be in the first voting round. That's really exciting. Everything is on track for that to happen at the end of March. And I guess after that, that's just, you know, that's when we just start delivering on what we set out to deliver. We, you know, start funding these projects and getting these projects incubated, and then getting them out the door as well, with a few NFT airdrops and NFT collections along the way. It's a really exciting time. You know, every other day now, I'm in calls with content creators. As we talk about Flickto, you know, they've applied for listing, for example, and, you know, when we tell them that they're going to be listing during the first round, or we tell them they're going to be a launch project, it's that emotion that comes out from them. You know, they wouldn't have had that opportunity otherwise. They might have had to wait years for even the chance. And that just, you know, shows the real impact that we're already having, which, you know, is something that I really enjoy. A lot of this sometimes goes on behind closed doors. It can be hard to say, well, what's actually kind of happening, you know, but we are starting already to change those lives and change the industry. And as we move throughout the rest of 2022, you know, like many Cardano projects, initially our platform is largely off-chain, right? You know, while we wait for the relevant bits and pieces to be mature enough and prove that the model works. That's what I'm definitely excited about, is turning all of this into a DAO. The work for that's already begun, but, you know, it's really exciting time to hand over the keys of Flickto to the wider community in a truly decentralized fashion. And then taking it from funding media projects. So we started with funding media projects because creatives are at the heart of the media industry, and that financing is such a huge problem that needs changing. Once we've fixed that, that's when DeMe comes into play. That's the first step in actually realizing DeMe, decentralized media. Once we've tackled funding, we can then branch that out, perhaps into sales, distribution of projects as well. You know, decentralized streaming is a great avenue to be looking into. We can then start taking on the wider media industry and decentralizing more and more of it. And that's what I'm really excited about. And I'll let Pratik share his insights.
Yeah, in terms of media projects, we've just to touch upon what Rob said, that speaking to those people when we actually say that we're going to fund it, the first few films that we've said we're going to fund are from university students. And that's why I say take us like a Y Combinator for media, because I could really see us helping that next generation of content creators and actually pushing the next generation of content out there. The thing that excites me the most about DeMe is the way that we're going to, the fundamentals of it, essentially, the way that we're going to embrace those fundamentals of decentralization. As Rob said, the first step is democratizing the finance, right? The next step would be to make sure that all that knowledge is accessible, easily accessible and open source, because right now, like I said previously, you really need to be in the upper echelon of the society within media to actually understand what's going on and get your film over the edge. And one of our partnerships, which is a recent development within the media side of the business, is Bazooka Bunny. They've got over 80 years of experience within the industry making films, and their ethos is great. They want to tell diverse stories that aren't usually told and tell them to the people that would really engage with it. So I feel like there's a lot of synergy between us. They're helping us with the Project Cowboy. It is something that's come from their network. So yeah, it's really exciting to be working with experienced people that have that same ethos as us to actually help underrepresented content creators within the space.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm certainly excited myself. Just listening to both of you talk about it, you can see that, you're both very fired up and passionate about this. There are things out there, believe it or not, that are worth more than money, and sometimes that is helping people and seeing the joy that brings. And you touched on that, Rob. So it's certainly very interesting what you guys have got going on. I'm really looking forward to watching this unfold. We've got the launch of your platform essentially at the end of this month, the 31st. So it's going to be super interesting to kind of take a look how it all unfolds and see really some of the projects that come out of Flickto.
Yeah, absolutely. And the community drives our direction in a lot of that regard. After we launch at the end of March, it's going to be quite busy, I imagine, in our community of suggestions, improvements, all of that kind of stuff. So, in terms of following us along, I think, obviously videos such as this, following good creators such as ALLIN Crypto is vital for people. But never hesitate to check out our website, flickto.io. We're on all the social channels as well. All of our major announcements will end up there. And we look forward to the time that we bring the first film out there, get that first film out that was built and funded using Cardano. I think that's going to be really awesome. But yeah, just check out our website. Feel free to join our community. We've got a lovely Telegram and Discord community. It's growing day by day. Great bunch of people in there as well. So yeah, just check us out and
do you want to plug your social medias maybe? I'll put them all in the description anyway, so people can go down below and they can find it. Plug maybe your Twitter, some places that people can find and reach out to you.
Yeah, so at Flickto Media for our Twitter. Same thing goes for Reddit. If you guys really want to join the conversation and get in depth, Reddit's probably the best place for that. If you guys want to learn the story that we're telling through just our marketing activities, YouTube is probably one of the best places, because we like to tell stories through our ads and really make them entertaining. So there's different social media platforms for every different type of content that you guys want. If you really want to get more in-depth information, we've got a doc site coming as well. Rob, would you mind reminding the viewers of what the actual URL is for the doc site, please?
docs.flickto.io. So main site is flickto.io. So docs.flickto.io, lays out all the information in a great format. And especially in terms of the ISPO remastered that we talked about earlier, there's a whole section on there, so you can easily see what the earning potential is if you were to delegate your ADA in one of the Flickto ISPO pools.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I'd say join the conversation on Telegram and Discord as well. We're getting really international with our community. Portuguese channels opening up, Hindi channels opening up. What else? There's quite a few, Turkish as well. So yeah, join the conversation. Get in touch. We won't bite. And yeah, we'd love to welcome new community members.
Get involved, absolutely. But we'll leave a link to all of that in the description. Guys, I suppose the last thing for me to do is say thank you very much for coming on, sharing your project with me. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the channel, and I look forward to potentially having both of you back when you've launched your product, once your app has launched. So thank you very much for coming on, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, ALLIN Crypto.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was great.